Launch Left podcast. We're Gosling, all Gosling, we will launch Left. Hi, this is Rain Phoenix, and you're listening and watching LaunchLeft podcast, a space for famed creatives to launch the next wave of music rebels. It's also an intentional space to highlight and empower all artists for whom radical creativity is not a choice, but a necessity. Today's special guest is Dan Lanois, music producer, songwriter, pedal steel player, guitar player, 11-time Grammy Award winning producer, incredible human being, such a give back heart. And I've had the pleasure of meeting him a few times and getting to tour his home studio. And today we're all going to get a look into his home studio. And I'm going to ask him some questions, burning questions I've had for, I don't know, since the 80s, being a child of the 80s. He's definitely someone who made records that were formative to me. And actually, especially formative to my brother River, who was one of the biggest musical influences on me. So it's a huge pleasure to welcome Dan Lanois to the show. Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
So nice to see you, and thank you so much for doing this.
You're very welcome, Rain. Yeah,
I'm really, I was just reminiscing, thinking about how I came to know Dan Lanois, and I realized it was through my brother River, who I don't know if you ever got to meet, but his one of his favorite producers was you. So the records that he listened to when I was just like 12, 13, 14, and being influenced by him were the U2 records you produced, as well as Peter Gabriel's So. I remember he had that on repeat, and I knew every song by heart as a young person. So I hope you'll bear with me. I want to ask a couple questions about your early days before we launch into.
Yeah, of course. You lead the way there, please.
Well, first, I'm just curious how music found you as a boy. Like, what first brought you to music, or how did it come and search you out?
In the French Canadian community as a child, because we lived in Quebec, my grandfather was a violinist. He was a violonneux, which is a nickname for a fiddler. So he knew a lot of the old jigs, and my dad also played a little bit. But the gatherings were significant because we didn't come from a lot of cash, so folks would just gather out of other folks' houses and sing songs, and the violins would come out, and somebody be at the piano, and the very old-fashioned, almost hillbilly a little bit, and so I got to hear those old melodies, and they were traditional melodies from a lot of them French Canadian, some Irish, things that go, played in double stop. And of course that gets into a little kid's head. So that was the beginning there, being exposed to music. And then after that, my mom moved the family to a place called Hamilton, which is on the Canadian side, not far from Buffalo. It's a steel town, and that's where I grew up as a teenager. And I started taking music lessons there because I wanted to play the clarinet. I mean, I could elaborate on that if you want.
Yes, I'd love to know why you wanted to play the clarinet. What a beautiful instrument.
I had seen a clarinet player on TV, and I thought, maybe one day I could play the clarinet. And I guess I was about 9 or 10 then. And my mom used to give me $1 a week as an allowance, and I'd go to the cinema by myself on Saturday. It was a couple of miles walk downtown, which was always lovely. And I passed by this music store, and I saw in the window something that looked like a clarinet for $1. I went in and I bought it. It was just a plastic penny whistle, really. But it was close enough looking to a clarinet. And so I played that for couple of years. And then this was the time of door-to-door canvassing, and someone knocked on my mom's door and said, do you have any kids that want to take music lessons? She said, well, this one over here likes music. And I passed the aptitude test, and then I signed up for music lessons. And the guy said, well, we teach accordion or slide guitar. I said, okay, I'll take slide. And that was it.
Amazing. What an interesting two things to offer, door-to-door, accordion or slide guitar lessons, right? I mean, that doesn't seem like, it's not like just guitar or bass or, wow.
Yeah. Well, the rock and roll hadn't quite caught on that, so I think and there was a big Italian community, so the accordion was big.
So it does make sense then, okay. Wow, so that was as a boy how literally music found you. That's so interesting. Yeah. And were you someone who practiced constantly and just were absorbed in it all the time? Has music always been the thing that drove you since then?
Pretty much, yeah. I just played nonstop. I played that little recorder. I'm sure I made everybody crazy. And then I really loved the slide guitar as well. I'd walk to my lesson back downtown once a week, this time to the lesson rather than the cinema. And I loved my lesson. I had a one-on-one lesson with a teacher, and I like to tell this story because it's the kind of thing that wouldn't happen in modern times. He used to hypnotize me. He'd put a little, like a center of a 45 on the music stand. So you keep looking at that, and he'd say, you're getting sleepy, and you're going to get better and better. And sure enough, I got better and better.
What?
He was into hypnotism. I loved it. I looked forward to getting hypnotized, and sure enough, I got better and better.
Wow, that's so interesting. I've never heard of a hypnotizing music teacher, but it obviously worked for you quite well. And then my next curiosity, and thank you so much for humoring me, is how you came to meet Brian Eno and then collaborate with him, like as Quebec.
Yes, well, I got into recording very early on. I acquired a little tape recorder. It had an onboard microphone and onboard speakers, and I started fiddling with that for a good few years. I guess when I was about 12 or 13, I got that little recorder. And so I started recording my friends, and I just kept building that into a recording studio. Eventually got really good at it, and to move the clock forward, I had a very active, nice studio in this town, Hamilton, I told you about. And I used to record a lot of folks from Toronto, a lot of smart artists that came from the art world. And I recorded these two women called the Time Twins. And they made very inventive music, and I really poured my heart into their work, and we made some inventive recordings. They went to New York, met Eno, played him the tapes. He said, wow, these sound very inventive. Where did you make these? And they said, there's a guy in Hamilton. And he called me up and asked if he could come in and record. He was coming to Toronto anyhow because he had a girlfriend in Toronto at the time. So it was just an off-chance thing, and we hit it off and became great friends. He lived in my house. We made ambient records for a good few years together.
Did you have anything to do with the Brian Eno, Harold Budd collaboration? Like, were you part of that recording? There was one that I just played constantly called, I think, First Light.
I made 2 records with Brian for Harold, Plateau of Mirror and The Pearl. And
love those records.
In fact, Plateau of Mirror was the first one that I did, the first recording I worked on with Brian. He came in with already recorded piano that he'd done with Harold in New York, I believe, and then we proceeded to manipulate the sounds and add to the piano recordings, and so that was the beginning of the ambient series.
So, and that's where you started with Eno, and then that parlayed into U2, because I know you collaborated on many U2 records with him.
Yeah, we made a good, I want to say 5 albums under the ambient banner. So we were on a pretty good roll, and we had a really nice time. And I stopped doing everything else. I just devoted myself totally to making this body of work with Brian. Then there was an invitation. All kind of phone calls would come in, and we were pretty starstruck. You know, David Bowie would be on the phone, and somebody else. And then he said, this band U2 wanted to invite him to produce. And he said to them, I'm not producing anymore. I said, Brian, because I'd listened to what they had sent. I said, I think the kid's got something, Brian. He thinks he's got some really nice high notes, but why don't you make an introduction and I'll produce them? He said, okay. And so that was the plan, and we went to Dublin together. And Bono's very convincing, so Brian decided he would do it with me.
And how was that working with, like, I think it depends on the artist or the producer, but you were really collaborating with Brian. I know you said you guys were good friends, and that was really easy for you. It wasn't to share that, because I know everybody has different ideas, right? But you were able to bring your ideas together, or you had a lot of similarities, or you enjoyed the differences together.
Well, that's interesting. You talk about differences because, we have different skills. I was a very accomplished musician by the time we went to Ireland, and had not spent my time in art school like Brian had. So he was much more advanced philosophically and ways of the art world. But I knew how to play instruments, and I had an understanding of the makeup of harmonies because I recorded a lot of gospel records when I was a kid. So I really knew about fundamentals and complementary harmonies and that. So I was able to make a contribution that way. And I believe the guys from U2 were quite impressed with my knowledge because I wasn't just good at running the equipment, that I had a musical knowledge. But getting back to differences of opinion, there was a moment in the studio where one of the band members asked, Brian, what do you think? He said what he thought. And then he said, Dan, what do you think? And I said the opposite. At the end of the day, Eno took me aside. He said, don't ever do that again. Whatever I say, you agree with, and whatever you say, I agree with. That's progress. Differences of opinion are terrible. We're a team. And I never forgot that.
Wow.
I said, that is the end of debate and democracy for me.
Wow. And was that something that you adopted through future collaborations, or did you never collaborate again? No.
No, we kept going from there, and I just realized that it's very important to Brian to get on with things rather than consider too many options, because if you get on with something, even if you're wrong, better to find out you're wrong soon and then get on with the right thing. So I really appreciate that he's very proactive.
My older brother, River, he was probably the most influential. We played music since he was 5 and I was 3 together. And whatever he brought me musically was kind of what formed who I am, too. So, yeah, I remember The Unforgettable Fire and Joshua Tree and where I was and how old I was. It's interesting now, so many years later, to have the opportunity to speak to you. I just thank you so much for sharing a little bit about that, because it's definitely
of course, yeah, man.
Yeah. And then outside of that, Peter Gabriel So, I think, came after that. And that was something you did with Brian as well, or was that on your...
No, I worked with Peter without Brian.
So, right. Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That record is phenomenal. Really.
I'll tell Peter you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. He's definitely a seminal artist too. Yeah. So interesting, depending on when you were raised or born, the 80s for me.
And a very kind man, generous and very smart. Yeah.
Cool. Outside of that, I know more recently you've made a lot of solo records, first of all, which were phenomenal, and you've been producing. I don't know that you really produce so much anymore, outside of things that you're very close to you or that you want to work on.
Well, I'm not doing it the way I was doing it back then because as I look back through the chapters of my life, I realized that I could never be that focused and committed anymore, not in that way, because I gave up everything to make the best work with these folks. I lived in Peter Gabriel's upstairs. He had a farmhouse, and I just lived upstairs for a year, never went out, and all I did was work on this record. Could I do that now? Probably not, because life is busier and there's more going on. So it belonged to that time. I'm still as devoted as ever in a different way. I'm making music with some folks I met here in Los Angeles and Shreveport, Louisiana. We're called Heavy Sun. You've heard us here at the house.
Yeah.
And great singers, and I'm very excited about this body of work. So I'm sure I'll look back at this as a chapter one day.
Yeah, working there at your house with them on this project. I mean, obviously right now we're all going through something that unprecedented in that no one is leaving their home, and they're not there with you through this quarantine, and so therefore you're maybe not working right now.
Yeah, we got pretty much all the work done prior to the problem, and so everybody's at home. But we're reconfiguring the studio in such a way that, because I have a whole other studio area downstairs, I don't know if you saw that, but so I'm thinking of having them back to touch up the vocals, and they could be down there and I can be up here. We've done it that way in the past, with cameras, and so it's still possible to get work done that way. So they'll be back.
Yeah, and actually I did have the incredible opportunity to go downstairs and and I think it's like your archive. There's like tape, a ton of different tapes from like all the amazing records you made. And I remember being like, whoa, it felt like I was in the most incredible room to see just the names of the records, one of which was Wrecking Ball, which was one of my favorite records with Emmylou Harris. Yeah. And I wondered just quickly if we could touch upon a little bit about that record, and most specifically that you even met her and made that record.
She called me out of the blue, and I always liked her voice, and we agreed to have a meeting. So I went to see her at her place in Nashville, and I was very touched by the American feeling in her house. Her dad had been a pilot in World War II. Fighter pilot, and so there was a lot of memorabilia surrounding that, plus pictures of Johnny Cash and the Carter family and George Jones, and I thought this is the part of America that I'd like to know more about, and so it caused me to be a little patriotic, as a Canadian, and I thought, well, this woman has her values intact, a great human being, and I think I'd like to make a record with her. So it was as simple as that. In regards to the vision, that wasn't so hard. Emmy brought a good few songs to the table that she had handpicked that were good songs, and then off we went. But we found the sound very early on that was a big part of the spine of that record sonically. Combination of this upright piano that we rented. I don't know what kind it was. Let's say it was an old upright Steinway, kind of a saloon kind of piano. And I brought my dulcimers that are multiple string instruments. I had a little Mando guitar that I loved at the time, and again, that's a multiple string instrument. So we found this chiming sound. With the dulcimer, the piano, and the Mando guitar became the chime of that record. And then Emmy's got a little something in her voice that reminds me of what I heard from the early days, pop music coming out of Hollywood, the Crystals, and then he kissed me. That walked up to me, and I thought, oh. When I heard that sound in the headphones, I ran into the control room and I spoke with Malcolm Byrne, who was engineering. I said, don't touch anything. That's the sound of this record. And I decided to pursue the very thing that had come our way.
Wow.
But that aside, Emmy is such a great singer that we were able to get live vocal takes. And if I felt that we'd gotten a good take musically and a good vocal, I'd ask Emmy to sing 2 more right away. So that if there were any phrases that she was uncomfortable with on the initial pass, then we had 2 backups to go to. That's better than revisiting 2 or 3 weeks later. You never get the vibe back. Plus, maybe I can explain something technical. We recorded everything live as a little group together, so sometimes Lucinda Williams would be just to my left, Emmy over here, me over there, and then some of the other musicians, more like a kitchen gathering of singing, and that made for really nice communication, but also made for quite a bit of bleed into her vocal. So to do those extra vocals that I just told you about, we would pipe the music back through studio speakers, mimicking the presence of the instruments, so we got the same leakage in the overdub vocals.
Whoa. Very cool.
So just a little technological trick there for anyone who's interested.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing about Wrecking Ball. Definitely seminal. Yeah. So back to Heavy Sun, which is now and happening now. I know that you shared that you wanted to show a little bit about something with your studio, right?
Yeah.
I want you to do it to show me what you wanted to show.
Okay. Well, before we completely move off of Emmylou, let me add one thing.
Yes, please.
Larry Mullen, the drummer from U2, loves country music. And when I was putting the band together, I thought maybe this is a chance to do a country thing with Larry. So I called him up and I said, would you come to Nashville? And he didn't know all that much about Emmylou, but he trusted that I did. And because everything that Larry plays sounds heavy, even the simplest thing. He's just got that rolling heaviness in his sound, and that's also a very big part of the thundering subsonics of that record. So thank you, Larry Mullen.
Yes, thank you, Larry Mullen, and thank you for what's interesting about you. Thank you for sharing that, because it's I think that's always such a powerful part of a good producer, is knowing who's the right player and who to bring into the collaboration or into the record, because
it's part of my job to recognize the potential in someone. So I might meet a musician that's got something to offer. Maybe other people aren't noticing it so much, but I do. And I like to, if that person's hungry, that goes a long way for me. So I've invited a lot of hungry, hidden talent to be involved with me.
I know. That makes my heart sing, because that, as you know, is very much what LaunchLeft is about, is artists that use their platform and their talent to spotlight and help other artists come up, and kindness on top of kindness in the community, collaboration over competition. These are the virtues that LaunchLeft hopes to espouse as a not just a podcast, but a kind of ecosystem of artists helping artists. And so you are one of those artists that, to me, has always had that kind of heart, and you have so many causes close to your heart. You're somebody who cares deeply, so I just am so grateful to have the opportunity to sit down with you via Zoom, not in person, but while we're on house arrest. For all right.
Why don't we then segue to some of this current work? Speaking of hungry hidden talent, I hope Johnny Shepard doesn't mind me calling him that. I met Johnny Shepard through Brian Blade and his father. In Shreveport, Louisiana, at the Zion Baptist Church, where Brian's dad is a pastor. And I played guitar in that band, and Johnny was the choir leader, organist, and a vocal arranger. And when his term came to an end with that church, I invited him to come to LA to work with us. So you'll hear he sings the lead on this. He's got a fantastic voice. And then we have 3 other singers. We have Rocco DeLuca, who's got the most beautiful high register. Jim Wilson, who has comes more from the rock world, but has a beautiful tenor voice, can also go very high. And then me, who I usually come a little bit under Jim, you know. Johnny can hit everything. He's so great. So let me play you this little track here. It's very short, so I'll let it play through because we're then going to send you the high fidelity version, so it will be high five for the folks who listen to the podcast after. So what do I do here? When just press this?
Change your mic first.
Oh yeah, I'm going to change the mic. Put it just a bit like that.
And for all you watchers and listeners, I had the extreme pleasure of actually witnessing this live, and this is and like Dan said, he's going to do an audio feed, so you'll at least be able to hear this in all its glory. But this is an amazing experience to see you all perform and record it live at your home.
Yeah, man.
So lucky me. Hope everyone gets the opportunity to see that footage one day.
So this is quite a rhythmic track. What else can I say about it? Oh yeah, and the project is called Heavy Sun. So Daniel Lanois and Heavy Sun. So here we go.
Get you to the side.
Yeah. You're,
Thank you.
you're a
Oh
pretty
my
good
God.
dancer there, right? I had no idea.
Oh, I couldn't help it. I was like, you know what? The spirit's moving me. I'm getting up.
Yeah, right. So that's called "Say You Will." It's based on a church classic that Johnny had knowledge of, and we adapted it to this, and then we cut it to fixed time. Not much of anything, just this little beatbox, and then in the absence of the guys, I overdubbed with Wayne. I overdubbed all the drums, and so if you're interested, I can walk you through some of the components.
If you're interested in sharing, I'm always interested in hearing.
Okay. Well, let me just start here with is this the right song here, Wayne? Yeah. It started with this little hi-hat processing. There's not much of anything, but we managed to turn it into something. And then the main drum kit.
Who played drums on this? You did?
No, Kyle Crane, a great drummer in LA. He's quite a specialist on playing the beatboxes.
Okay.
So I got this drum kit here. See, he's got this little brush action going. Lovely kick drum part. And then he did a Rolling Toms version, which goes like this. And when I blend the two together, you get this effect. And Johnny's organ. Then we have a piano. A little bit Thelonious Monk-like. Johnny's vocal, of course.
Dressed in robes so white as snow. Dressed in robes so white as snow. Sing it up in redeem. Sing it up in redeem. Will you meet me in the morning? We will cross that separated line. Oh, that peace everybody.
So that gives you a little bit of an idea.
Thank you for separating them so we could kind of hear that building of it. So great. So you're making a record together right now? That's what you were talking about, right? Are you done or nearly done?
We're nearly done. Wayne and I are here just going through with the process that I always go through. If we're lucky enough to have bumped into some magic, then we apply TLC and attention to all the details. We wouldn't go ahead without the magic, but we've got it here on this record a good few times, so that really keeps the fire burning in my heart, just to go the distance and make it a masterpiece. My production skills are being poured into this work right now, and we like playing live, and hopefully we're going to all get back to singing together pretty soon, because as you know, singing with people is it might be the oldest instrument of congregation, that and beating on a drum.
Drum, right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I know. Fireside songs, right? Which, interestingly, I've always felt like the
modern congregation, as church attendance falls into demise a bit, then we find other ways to raise the spirit. And I think for anyone who's got a bit of a a spirited heart, it's not hard to recognize that modern times have a lot to offer that way. You know, there's plenty of ways to getting together.
Yeah.
It's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's more of a melodic thing. That what do I do, Wayne? Project?
Let me come around.
Okay. Wayne Lorenz is here with me, and he's my co-producer. He doesn't like me to call him that because he doesn't want any credit for anything. But how rare is that? But a man that I admire and trust. We've been working together for a long time now. He's setting up the console. He's been working on this rig. He's been working on this rig for a couple of days, just trying to... Oh, I should say something about this microphone was sent to me by Mark Brenner from Shure. He's a good friend who is one of the bosses at Shure. And it plugs into the iPhone or the laptop, right, Wayne?
Yep.
And it's a much improved sound over the onboard speaker. So for anyone who
I
who's
would
interested...
love to talk to him if you don't mind sharing, because that's
No.
what I'm doing from home and I would love to have a better quality to my voice while doing podcasting. So
yes, I think we could put you in touch. We'll give you the model number. It's brand new. They got some very smart cookies in the design department there at Shure, just outside Chicago. And we're big fans, and so Mark always sends me the latest to try out. So he sent me this and a couple of lav mics, which also that might be good for you for your dancing. Just strap one on.
Yeah. This is honestly the first time I've ever danced on a podcast, so for helping me move.
So this is the other end of the spectrum from the rhythmic song. It's a song called Way Down, and it was started by Rocco DeLuca. All these songs were written by Rocco DeLuca, Johnny Shepard, and myself. And so this one was started by Rocco. See if it comes through here. Excuse me. Oh, let me just move the mic there, Rain, so you can hear it properly.
It's a beautiful city. That's what I've been told. Where we are not bought, and we are not sold. Way down, way down, way down, way down. A city on the other side. Way down, way down. A city on the other side. Beyond betrayal and trouble of every kind. Beyond my reason is mine. Beyond the reaches of time. Beyond the horizon, beyond the horizon line. Way down, way down, way down. Oh, the city on the other side. Way down, way down, way down. Oh, the city on the other side. Weep like a willow, moan like a dove. I'm trading pity for kindness, hatred for love. Way down, way down, way
Wow.
That's a sweet little song.
So beautiful. Wow. Thank you. Which harmony are you? There are so many beautiful vocals. The high one?
Way down. I'm singing a support lead
yeah.
on the other side. Way down, way down, way down. The city on the other side. Way down, way down. That's my register.
So beautiful.
I want to provide a little recording trick here for acoustic guitar. This is something that if you're cool with that, Raina,
Would love it.
This is something I've been doing since, I guess it was Edge from U2 introduced me to this acoustic guitar miking idea. You don't use a microphone at all, you use a pickup. At the time, it was a Washburn acoustic with a Lawrence clip-on magnetic pickup, and it turned out to be a real friend for me in the studio. And then I took that idea to when we made Bob Dylan's Old Mercy record. I didn't want Bob's vocal to be spilling into the guitar, because I thought if he changed some of the lyrics, then I would want to punch him in, and that would screw up the punch in. So we used this magnetic pickup and a little amp hidden around the corner under cushions. And so that's the acoustic guitar sounds on Old Mercy are, in fact, electric acoustics, and I've stayed with that ever since. So I'll let you hear this happens to be a little Guild acoustic. I'll show you in a second with that pickup on it through a little Fender amp. Wait, a little Fender Tweed. Let's see. Excuse me. So I redid these acoustics after the band left just to improve the quality. And then I doubled it. And then we had the luxury of this little beatbox to keep time. And then Johnny's organ, of course. Now, there's no bass on here. The organ is playing the bass, so you have this lovely advantage of the bass being really in tune with the top of the organ, of course, because it's all coming from one instrument. So it's always been one of my favorite sounds, the Hammond organ. Johnny, of course.
Way down, on the other side. Way down, city. You may weep like a willow, moan like a dove. I'm trading pity.
That's me coming in under.
Kindness, hatred for love. Way down,
Rocco.
A city.
We'll hear Rocco come in a second.
Way down, a city on the other side. The star.
Rocco's got that most beautiful timbre in the top end that I've never heard from anyone else.
To rediscover again.
And then you'll hear Jim coming in now.
On the other side we descend into our hearts, hearts we transcend. Way down, way down, that beautiful a city on the other
And then Rocco.
Way down, going way down. Come on and go. A city on the other side. It's a beautiful city. That's what I've been told. We are not born. We're not so.
And just to dissect it a little bit. So there's not much in the track as I look at it now. As much as we process everything and often come up with some very inventive sounds. This is a more straight up kind of recording. We put the time into the singing. But I can't say enough about the organ, for anyone who likes the organ, it's a great instrument to go to for bottom end and perfect pitch.
Wow, just stunning.
Rain, can I show you my little drum rig here? Because we record the drums right here. I wear headphones. Wayne wears headphones, and the drummer, and that's kind of it in regards to drum overdubs. It's just an old drum kit I bought from Pro Drums on Vine. You can see them there. So I'll walk over. Wayne left me any rope here. So this is it. The snare is an original Black Beauty from the 30s, I think. This is a large one, a very beautiful sound. But these Ducos, I got them for $1,200 from Pro Drum. They're from the 50s, and so we record right here. Just 3 microphones. Again, Shure mics for the tops. And what do we got on the bass drum? An AKG, a D12, is it? Yeah, AKG D12. So that's just a 3-mic recording, and we just move them around accordingly. If Kyle's playing a floor tom feature, then we just move the mic a little closer to the floor tom and so on. So it takes all this multiple miking business out of the equation, because I don't like to spend a lot of time on drum sounds in the studio, because I went through enough of that in the 80s that people beating on snare drums for days on end. I don't like it anymore. So there are any drummers out there?
Oh yes, plenty of drummers that will be very happy to hear and grateful for that. So thank you.
And we just I insist on one cymbal for a drummer. I started this with Brian Blade as a joke. I said, "You're only allowed one cymbal on tour," and he laughed, and he brought one cymbal, and that was it. I do the same thing with Kyle, and that way you don't get...
I adore you. This might be one of my favorite things about you. I actually was known once to grab a drummer's cymbal while he was playing live on stage while I was performing. I just silenced it, and it's an ongoing joke with my then band that I literally just stopped it, because I have a thing, I don't know what it is, with the way that I hear, certain brassy sounds literally make me nearly just lose my cookies. And
my kind of girl.
I'm a fan of skins over brass. You know what I mean? Like, I always prefer minimal cymbals. They have to be tasteful, and they have to say what they mean to say, and just not be like, I'm all cymbal happy. It drives me crazy. So thank you for saying that.
Well, we try and stay far away from endorsement rock. If I could diplomatically say it to my drummer friends.
I love that endorsement rock. Gosh, Dan, I can't tell you how grateful I am for this. Is like, I feel high from today, just from the hearing beautiful music, speaking to you, connecting it to my childhood. To connect when possible is how artists connect to something that what do they give back to? What's a passion for them?
Well, we can talk about that sort of thing a little bit. I'm not the kind of activist that's at the picket line, but I try and just make the light a little brighter where I can. And so to be a living example of my own philosophical stance is not a bad start. I've helped out a few folks along the way. This is an idea that I'm going to talk about it, not to brag on it, but just suggest that it might be good for someone else to do as well. As I mentioned to you the other day, I helped out some kids in Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay is a city in North Ontario in Canada that has a native population. And somebody started a little social center for some of the native kids, and they didn't have any instruments there. And they invited me to come up there and play some music, and I couldn't make it. I said, well, let me send some instruments. So I hooked up with a music store in Thunder Bay, and we bought a whole bunch of amps and guitars and keyboards with little onboard beats. And it turned out to be a great success. The kids are making little rap songs and all kinds of things, creative things coming out of that room now. So then I got to thinking about all my friends that are professional musicians that have nice instruments, good working instruments that they don't play anymore because maybe they got the later model and so on. So it's a good thing to, as music programs disappear in schools, if you know of a little pocket of kids somewhere that could use some instruments, then you'd call your friends and send the instruments on down and say, have a good time. It was pretty simple. It didn't cost that much money.
You must have felt so good, too.
Yeah, I felt good because I'm told that it was a success. So, but you know, it's just a small thing, really. But that's something that I decided to do some time back. Could we now, Rain? Can we do the Save the Planet part of the podcast right now?
To,
okay,
yeah.
I'll be right back. Excuse me, just.
Yeah.
For anyone who thought that the plastic straw was the demon of our times in the plastic department, what about a plastic sticker on my organic tomato? So, where do these stickers go? Nobody knows. They don't get recycled. I think they just end up in the ground somewhere, and they're not biodegradable. So, it takes us to senseless packaging. I've been noticing that packaging has... By the time I unpack my groceries, I've got a whole tabletop full of stuff. I don't know what to do with it. And so we've started bulk. This is bulk. Bulk pepper. Wayne likes pepper, and I like lentils. And we get these from the local Indian store, kind of a nice grocery store here outside Silver Lake. And I reuse these big heavy-duty bags. So what happens here is we don't throw anything away. Even if you like to grind your own pepper, they make the peppercorns available in big bags like this, and then you just grind them at the house, which does away with the Bic-style pepper grinder that you can get at Whole Foods. When that's finished, it goes in the trash. So this avoids unnecessary trash. So this is about not making too much of a mess and paying attention to throwaways and disposables. I think if we put a little bit of time into it, including you smokers out there, I've seen you, cigarette butt down in the sewer or down in the gutter and down on the lawn. As a non-smoker, I've been noticing that for a long time. I'm glad you're feeding your habits, but that doesn't mean to say you can have those cigarette butts float down to the ocean. So just a little bit of conscientious thinking in fast times, you know, in disposable times, we can make a difference just by doing simple things like that in our daily lives. I thought I had a couple of other things there. Let me see. I did like Iggy Pop. I started getting a little recipe card thing going here. Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about inner peace. The meditation and yoga and all has really come into popularity, and that's fantastic. But what's happening while you're at the yoga parlor? What's happening at your house? Is there somebody working on your garden with a leaf blower? Now let's move into outer peace. I've discontinued motorized gardening on my property, and as you saw, I have big, beautiful gardens here. So we use rakes and brooms, and we're not blowing the wildlife to smithereens or scaring them, or and we're not adding up to the sound pollution that we have a lot of these days. So this is a nice, easy thing to do. You might have to pay your gardeners a little bit more to stick around longer, but the animals will be happier for it, and I think people will have a better demeanor because they're not going to be bothered by sound pollution so much. So just, a little hint, a little tip that I would like to relate. Outer peace.
Personal responsibility. I mean, I think by speaking about bulk.
Isn't that where it starts, Oh, and I'll get off of this packaging angle here. A little film that's called Dance On, and it has a lot of fun in it. So, and it's a really great song called Dance On.
If you feel like you wanna dance, go ahead and do your dance. Dance on, dance on, dance on, yeah. Dance on. If you feel like you wanna sing, singing may be your thing. Sing on, sing on, sing on, yeah. Sing on. And if you feel like you wanna shout, got something to shout about, shout on, shout on, oh, yeah, shout on. And if you feel like you wanna love, don't care what nobody say about it, yeah. Love on, love on. Go ahead and love on, yeah. Love on. And if you feel like you wanna teach, that's the only way you know how to read. Teach on, teach on, oh, teach on, teach on, and whatever you do, don't let nobody steal your joy from you. Dance on, dance on. Can you feel it? The fire. I feel it in my soul. Fire. I feel it in my hands, yeah. Did it get down in my feet? Fire. That's when the Spirit take control. Fire. And then I feel it burning. I feel it burning. Feel it burning. Can you feel it burning? Can you feel it burning? Whatever
thank you. I can't thank you enough. What an amazing time I just had, and I hope it wasn't too painful for you.
Oh, I enjoyed it, Rain. Thank you. And I'm not always comfortable doing this type of stuff, but given that we're in our natural domain here, and by the way, when the pandemic came to visit us, I looked up quarantine in the dictionary, and there's a picture of me and Wayne in there at the console. So we haven't had to change too much.
Are you serious? Now I gotta go look at that. That's great. Oh my, that's hilarious. Well, yeah, exactly.
And could I add a footnote to all this? I got a little sweet memo from Brian Eno, who is also in his house, and he has a garden. He's spending most of his time in the garden now. He says it's so nice to be getting through life without adrenaline, not to be driven by adrenaline. So I think he's enjoying a little bit of peace and tranquility. Inner peace. Now let's take care of outer peace. And hopefully that little virus is not going to come and get us.
Amen.
We're going to get it.
Amen. And what a beautiful way to close the show. Thank you so much.
All right, Rain. Take it easy.
Have a wonderful day. Peace.
Bye.
The cold sky and all its crying after the rain, the sun comes on through shining. To clear my path into refuge at last. Day by day, the world keeps on testing against the night. I count my blessings. What does not kill me, don't you know, will make me strong. A king may take a meadow, but the bird, she gives a song in the stillness of the midnight. I hear so near yet so far out of sight.
Thank you.
LaunchLeft aims to create an intentional space that highlights and empowers all artists for whom radical creativity is not a choice, but a necessity. LaunchLeft begins with music, but its ultimate aim is to launch left-of-center artists in all creative fields.